The first place started this because it was just a graphic from the Athletic. I believe they've done sort of a piece about it, and it's effectively, I'd go and find the graphic, but effectively the graphic breaks down the competition, the UK cost per month, and then the US cost per month. Now, it is worth, while we read these out, obviously, those UK listeners to us will note that there are some competitions that are packaged together, with one broadcaster. It's quite rare that you're paying just for one competition. So you'll have bundles, right? But like TNT cover several of these, Sky cover several of these, Amazon. I think those are the big three in the UK. But it really does speak volumes, and I could attest to this in the short time I was in Australia, how much of a rip off it really is.
I've just dropped the graphic in if you want to put it on the screen for people to look at. By the way,
let's have a look at this. Let's do some broadcasting. Yeah, here we go. There it is.
It's right in the middle. Obviously, you have me and Dan move either side slightly, like just the other way. There you go. See, look, boom, broadcast magic.
You've got to go the other way.
What do you mean? I'm fine on my screen.
No. On my screen, you're blocked off. You can't. You gotta go. You gotta go to your right.
But then I'm not blocked off on my screen. I'm like, do you know what? Okay.
Top class presenter there.
Yeah, I mean, look. I mean, if we go through it, Dan, right? If you rack up the price, Dan, I will sort of piece it all together in terms of how much it costs.
Okay.
Direct comparison.
So we start in the Premier League. It's £96 in the UK per month, compared to $10 in the US. Sorry, right. 39, just under £40 for Champions League in the UK per month. $7.99 in the US. Europa League, £30 compared to the same price, $7.99 in the US. FA Cup, £45 compared to $12.99 in America. MLS is actually the one time I think on this list where the UK is cheaper, $12.99 compared to $14.99 in America. La Liga, £22 compared to $12. Bundesliga, £67 compared to $12. Serie A, £19 compared to $7. League, £9 compared to $14. So actually, yeah, there's a discrepancy there.
I'm playing catch up. Carry on, go.
Then WSL, £64 in the UK compared to $12 in America. The NWSL is free in the UK compared to $29, like nearly $30 in America. The Women's Champions League is £20 in the UK, $7.99 in America. And then the US Women's League is, it doesn't even say free. I assume can you even watch it in the UK legally? Compared to $21 in United States. So there we go.
Right, so if I do the maths quickly, it's £427 roughly in the UK per month, based on that logic, right? In the States, it is, let's do it quickly now, 13, 15, 13, 8, 15.
Just for the note for the listener, costs show what it takes. It says here on the graphic, the costs show what it takes to watch named competition on its broadcast partners. And yes, several subscriptions give access to multiple competitions. They also reference that for competitions shown on the BBC, the shown cost includes the license fee.
Okay. One thing I will say is it's it was $177 in the States versus £427 in the UK. Like, I do think, right, that one thing you said, by the way, the FA Cup. Soon as I saw the FA Cup on TNT, I thought that was a disgrace. Personally, I think the fact the FA Cup is behind a paywall is absolutely mental.
But it's been. I think the FA Cup has kind of been like that. I mean, unless you're saying TNT, it was also BT, right? BT had it for a while, if I remember. There was definitely a period when BT Sport had it as well. Sky, I remember way back Sky having the FA Cup.
I
It
remember
did go
Satanta
for a
having it.
period. Yeah. Maybe even ESPN had it when they were around for a little bit. There was definitely a period when it was just the BBC and ITV more recently, but I guess in the ITV, I think it's free now, isn't it? BBC, ITV, and TNT have a selection of games because I swear ITV even pick up some League Cup games now. But yeah, at least one and a few of the games are going to be behind the paywall each year.
Yeah, but it's the big ones I've noticed as well. The big ones are going to be the ones that are going behind the paywall. Then realistically, the big ones have been the ones that have been on terrestrial television in the UK. Like that for me, I'm like, okay, like I get there's the odd game behind the paywall. Like I remember watching us draw with Brentford at Griffin Park on BT. Now, I remember watching that because that was when we first got a dish. Well, we didn't get a dish, but we had a like BT box or a box house. That was when we first got it. That was when we first found it, and I've still thought that was odd. The FA Cup as a product is something which, if you think about what the premise is behind it, right, it's that any team from the God knows how many preliminary rounds there are in August, all the way through to May, they could technically go all the way. You could have Joe Bloggs and his team from bloody Leamington Spa playing in a rubbish league go all the way to Wembley. And I think the fact that it's now being put more behind a paywall, so you're right, games are still being picked up, right, but they're being put more and more behind a paywall, and then companies moan that people are getting dodgy sticks and dodgy boxes.
See that was, I saw the Athletic, and I don't know if this is like multiple pieces they've done over this international break in this kind of research, but I did find it puzzling when I read a headline about illegal streaming, and if that piece doesn't reference at all the broadcast and the money that people have to pay to cover multiple subscriptions, and also just the problem that the broadcasters in this country have so much power over the scheduling of football games to the detriment to the problems that it throws onto fans on a regular basis because of changing schedules and all of that. Yeah, I mean it's interesting to me. I don't know if this is entirely linked to this, but I was having a conversation. I think it was around the Wolves game because I don't understand why there are Saturday 8 p.m. kickoffs. Like it just makes no sense to me. But we're already we're breaching that. In recent years, we breached a Christmas Eve game. We're getting 8:15 games now. There might be one for Chelsea in a couple of weeks or not, but that is kind of a regular thing now, 8:15 Premier League games.
There's only one game on Boxing Day this year as well.
Only one game. And my worry is that because fans are going to be in opposition to games being taken abroad, like we saw with La Liga, which luckily has been reversed, the Barcelona Villarreal game, or Como AC Milan in Perth, I think in February, because fans will reject that over here, and they should reject that over here. The way broadcasters or the clubs are going to try and get around it is to push kickoff times to even later to help other markets. So I mean, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility in a couple of years' time we're hitting 9 p.m. kickoff times in the UK,
which are fairly commonplace in other leagues.
Yeah, in Europe that's pretty common.
But do you know why it's common in Europe? It's because if you take Spain and Italy as examples, right, that's when the average nightlife starts. People are having their dinner.
Thing,
yeah, exactly. It's a cultural thing where dinners are happening that time of the evening because people are having siestas in the middle of the day, and they're taking longer lunches, and they're far more relaxed. There's certain elements of it where it's like, well, it's a cultural thing. Here, it's just going to piss people off because if you have a 9 o'clock kickoff, you're not going to finish until 10 or something ridiculous, or maybe even 11:15. You've then got to rush back. For my case, if I'm going back to Tunbridge Wells, the last train, which is the slow train, by the way, so which makes a 50 minute journey an hour and 45 sometimes, right? That's midnight. So then they're not trains aren't going to put they're not going to put on more trains for the sake of football fans. They just won't do it. So it's, you know, even though, you know, the current head of state in terms of our prime minister, you know, is a massive football fan, a massive Arsenal fan. His dad was a toolmaker and his mum was a nurse, if you didn't know. So it's very much a case of, you know, what are they going to do to support that? They're not, because they can't financially. Because if things have become, if trains are going to become more state run, which is what they're pushing towards, and state owned, they're not going to have the finances to be able to get people on the trains. If they do, and the trains, which are still extortionately priced as well, are going to have, you know, that impact as well. If I take the Liverpool game as an example, despite it being an amazing result, right? There was, because TfL seem to love doing this, there was no district line from Fulham Broadway, or if there is a district line running to Fulham Broadway, if you're coming into Chelsea, it's always the fourth one. They'll have another one come about 10 minutes, right, to stagger people going to games. So they don't have the regularity of trains anyway. So then you're going to have to fight through crowds to try and get home, to get to where you need to go, because not everybody lives in London, and not everybody who's coming from games to games, by the way, who doesn't live in London, might have come from abroad. They're not going to be, they might not be close by. So they've still got to get back to where they need to go. There's only a small selection of TfL lines that run 24 hours on a weekend. So it's kind of a case of like this whole situation. It's just, the more power you get to broadcasters, who then proceed to moan because there's not a great atmosphere at games, or it's not great to watch, they're actually killing what makes football so good. You know, I feel like we are going to be the last generation really who got to experience, you know, the regular match goers and the people that really build the culture, and sort of being able to see them every week and appreciate those people and, you know, what they bring to the stadiums. I always think about where I sit in the Matthew Hyden Lower. You've got Dave Johnston, obviously, you know, CFC UK. He sits by me as well. And obviously where I sit right on the corner flag, that's where the tifos start to come across. And you've got, you know, all the lads from, you know, We Are the Dead who sit around there as well. And obviously all the work that they've been doing, the shed end and on European nights to try and get things going again. And that it all feels very sanitized. I feel that's why more and more people are getting more and more drawn to non-league football. There are guys that used to sit by me. There are older guys, and even, you know, their kids who are maybe a little bit older than me, right? There's one guy I sit next to who his dad now goes to Eastbourne games home and away because Chelsea just isn't viable for him anymore. And he's now there going, to be honest, I like going to watch. He goes to watch Eastbourne as well. I think it was Maidenhead actually. So that sort of stuff. And then I went to watch Tunbridge Angels for it was 18 quid for a ticket, by the way. That was mental, but still, I went to watch Tunbridge Angels, which was cheaper than going to watch Chelsea. And I enjoyed it, but it's not going to stop me going to Chelsea. I love going to Chelsea still, because I think for me it's the social thing. But that is slowly sort of falling away. And I think things that worry people, especially season ticket holders. I mean, my dad's been a season ticket holder since 1970 something, right? He's had a season ticket for years, and he's sat there going, "Well, he's open to moving. He wants to move if the opportunity's right." As I think we've stated so many times, but it's that sort of thing where it's like, I know this is kind of going into a bit of a tangent here, but it's kind of a case of the pricing of football is now becoming so ludicrous that it's not becoming something, you know, where they say we value the fans and you talk about the 12th man and all this sort of stuff. I don't feel valued as a football fan anymore. And I haven't for a very long time. And I think even that is stemming across now into people who pay for their TV packages. We share our TV package with my cousin. He's got the Sky, we've got the TNT, we split that. So here's our TNT logins. We have his Sky logins and that. So we split everything. And it's stuff up. But then when they go, oh, these dodgy boxes, oh, why have people got these? Oh, well, we're going to crack down on this. Why are you cracking down on the people to do that in a cost of living crisis? When the reality is all the broadcasting companies continue to push their pricing up, which is then pricing people out, which will mean that people are going to go to those dodgy boxes. if you're pricing people out in the stands and on their sofa, do you know how mental that is? That's ridiculous.
Well, it's one of the counters I have when people say that, you know, the online crowd, you know, about Chelsea atmosphere, right? People moan about atmosphere, and they say the thing that will solve all of this is a new shiny stadium. And I think the naive thinking, I mean, some of it is just, we always say this, right? I'll call it out, bad faith, right? People, they actually don't care about the atmosphere at all. They don't care about the betterment of atmosphere.
We want names. Sorry,
But the thing about a new stadium is that we all know what that new stadium would be in the eyes of Clear Lake, right? Or the eyes of a lot of ownerships, because we've already seen it with other clubs as well. They would want the new stadium, the added seating inside Stamford Bridge would, I bet pretty confidently a majority of that new seating would just be used to further create hospitality.
Yeah.
Further create more revenue streams for a higher caliber or higher income, you know, clientele, if you want to put it like that. Like we've seen the dugout, they call it the dugout club at Chelsea. All these big clubs have their own version of it, right?
That is mental. By
the new bundle that got released recently, where you can get on a flight with the academy, apparently to some European games for like $7,000.
Sorry, what?
Yeah,
I did not know. What?
There was massive. It wasn't just that. It was like a bundle of several things. So it was like you would take the same flight, because obviously the youth team plays their UEFA Youth League game in the same place that Chelsea, the first team, would be playing. So I think it was like a combination of things, right? But that's where it's heading, right? Like this kind of exclusive luxury football experience. Like that's what a lot of this is being marketed towards. So I just sit here and go, like, if you want a new stadium and you think that that's going to be the solution to the atmosphere problems, the likelihood is the people that are going to make that atmosphere better are going to be further priced out, because that new stadium is not going to be built for those people in mind. It's going to be built for, you know, corporate hospitality, and that's just the reality, right? Like of it. So yeah, it's a depressing situation.
It is one thing I will say though about one new stadium, which I pain me to say it, but Spurs with that large 1-tier stand, that is one thing where you can tell they have thought about fans and the atmosphere, which is fair enough, right? But the reality is, like, I don't think people think like this. I think people look at Spurs as an example in terms of stadium. So I think that's where you'll look at it. But you were absolutely right, where people are going to be priced out. I also think it's where, if you think about what we talk about, social aspect and the small pockets of people. So obviously, you know, Harry sits a little bit further down than me. Obviously, I've got the guys which sit around my dad. So my dad's like, me and him share a season ticket, and you know, there was a geezer who used to sit to his left. That was a season ticket seat. That's now gone. It's just a random person. The other side of him is just a random person. You've then got small pockets of people who sit sit around us. There's a lady called Sandra who's been going since the 1950s, I think. So she sits right by us with her son. You've then got a guy called Bob, who I know listens to the pod, by the way. Hi, Bob. Who basically he comes all the way down from Newcastle way to come watch Chelsea every home game. You've got Steve who sits next to him. You've got the guy I was talking about, who's the dad goes to Eastbourne games. You've got my friend Tom as well with him. You've got you know, Carl and Kurt, for example, are two people that, you know, sit near me, that have always looked after me and all that sort of stuff ever since I was a kid. That we go into games, right? But that whole block I can talk about, just block 15 on its own in Matthew Harding, you know, people there. And this new stadium, I think it would be a case of you rip that all up, which is what you saw at Spurs, which is what you saw at Arsenal. You had to completely rebuild. And like you're saying, if you're going to have to completely rebuild, but fans are going to be priced out, they're then also going to be priced out on their sofas. You're then going to have a stadium which is going to be vastly used for corporate hospitality. You know, and I know we've brought this to Chelsea by talking about the stadium, right? And I know it's probably something where it kind of all ties in. Obviously, we've got to talk about the general pricing of football. you pull that all together, and then you're going to have more of a problem, because if you, like you said, the corporate seating, Wembley is a great example of corporate seating, right? Wembley's an 80,000 seater stadium, right? 87,000. I think 37,000 of that is corporate.
Yeah.
So realistically, if you're gonna put that down to Chelsea and Stamford Bridge, you're not going to get more seats for people to sit in. You're not. You're looking at 60, 65,000 capacities, which I think they were talking about, wasn't it? Right. So it's an extra 18,000 seats for Chelsea. That's probably going to be 18,000 seats of corporate hospitality. If not, about probably 50, 60% of that will be.
Yeah. There's no feasible way they extend, redevelop, new stadium, whatever it ends up being in the future for Chelsea, without a majority of it focused on ways to make money. So that's just the harsh reality.